And I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki and the district of Sipekne'katik, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And we will now have a moment of silent contemplation. Okay. I'm not sure why we're standing. The cameras don't see us when we're standing, and we had agreed that we would remain seated.
I don't think it's a show, but it shows respect, I guess.
Nevertheless, council took the decision when the camera system was put in that in order for the public who are watching us from home to be able to see us, we would remain seated because they can't if we stand.
I would hope to understand that.
Okay, the first item is the approval of or amendment to the agenda, and I do have an amendment. I'm not able to make a motion as I'm in the chair, but I would just ask for council's agreement. We'd like to add 5 minutes after business from councilors to allow Kate to have a few words with us before she leaves us. Is that agreed? Okay. Next item is the approval of the minutes of July 20th, 2021, council policy. I don't think those dates are correct. We met a policy meeting on Tuesday. So let's approve the minutes of July 20th, council policy, and July 28th, regular meeting of council. If I could have a motion for those.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. We did have a policy meeting on last Tuesday night, but am I correct in thinking we would approve that in October?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is the election of a deputy warden for a term that would end in October 2022. We're having this election a little early because our former deputy warden, Councillor John McDonald, as we all know, has moved on to the Nova Scotia legislature. So I guess we would open the floor for nominations. Councillor Rhino.
I nominate Councillor Norval Mitchell.
Councillor Mitchell, do you accept the nomination?
Well,
Are there any further nominations? Oh, it was first. Councillor Perry.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Eli Musa.
Do you accept the nomination?
no.
No. Okay. Councillor Knockwood?
No, I'm going to do Eli also.
Okay. Any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, I would declare nominations cease, and Councillor Norval Mitchell will be our new deputy warden. Congratulations.
I want to thank members of council for their, I guess, the trust in me as to be the deputy warden. I'll do my best to support the warden and council and do the best I can as for that term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now come on down. Yes. Next on the agenda, correspondence for information. Counselors, you've had the correspondence in front of you. Are there any items that any counselor wants to bring forward from correspondence for information? Okay, seeing none, we will move along to correspondence for decision. We do have several items here. The first item is a letter from Malcolm Noble, Chair of the East Hants Fire Service Association, regarding the request for a review of the financial guidelines for volunteer fire departments be undertaken by staff of the municipality, and that 3 members of the fire chiefs group be consulted on the draft changes prior to finalizing the document. And there is a letter there with the members identified. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warder. I'm wondering, has this been passed through Fire Advisory Committee before coming to us?
Okay, the CAO is going to answer that.
Through you, Madam Warden. It hasn't gone to fire advisory, and the reason for that is the financial guidelines for fire departments is a council policy that it does need to be updated. We've actually started at the staff level updating it a few years ago, and it sort of fell off the priority list, but it does need to be done. So I would recommend to council that you do that. I think it's valuable that you have some consultation from the chiefs, but it really is a council document, so they would be there for consultation, not approval. And, you know, we would work with them on adding some flexibility to those that we ourselves now have in our own procurement policies and whatnot, so.
Thank you, CAO. I'd also add that if consultation should be done with the Fire Advisory Committee, because we have a committee that's dedicated for fire advisory, whether it's, and if the policy is coming from council, that's our committee. They should be informed of this just as much as the other chiefs that are listed here.
Through Madam Warden, what I would suggest is you let the work be done and bring that to council, and then ask fire advisory to review that if you so choose. But it's very much administrative. Fire advisory is really advising council on fire issues. This policy is very administrative around how the accounting for tax dollars is done for the funds that are provided to them through the levy. So it's very much a financial policy, not a firefighting policy, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, I'll let the will of council speak.
And it can go through fire advisory, absolutely. We can take it to them first before it comes back to council, if that's the way that you want to go.
I just thought that the Fire Advisory Committee we have for the municipality, if something deals with the fire departments and the members in it, they should have a say. But if it's not the will and it's not needed, then I'll let the rest of councils decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Green.
I would move that we go ahead with this, with the 3 members to be consulted that are listed on the screen there. Staff move ahead and review the terms and come back to council with their findings.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hebb. Is there any further discussion? Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. I have an issue with my screen. I cannot see the results of the vote. I have a black screen. Here we go. And the motion has passed unanimously. 10 folks in favor. And there is nothing, councillors, to preclude a report going to fire advisory providing this information. Okay, the next item on correspondence for decision is the COVID-19 open house and public hearing update memo. Staff anticipate the need for possibly 3 public hearings in October, and council is asked to consider how they wish to host the hearings based on the updated public health regulations. The open houses can proceed as described in the attached memo. And Kim, did you want to take that one? John? Okay. As soon as my screen comes back. And John is staff 3.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So as the memo says, based on the update that we received today, the sessions can go ahead. It's just that we will have to check for vaccination status at the door. So we are, I guess, preparing to roll that out. Masks will be required. However, for both those events and future public hearings here, the social distancing requirement and gathering limits have ended in phase 5. So, we can put more seats back in here and accommodate more people in here and in 168, according to the announcement today.
But I don't think proof of vaccination is required for the public hearings.
No, for that's right. As it says, for any legislative required meeting, like a public hearing, we can't require it. It's only for those, again, those open house type meetings that we could.
Okay. All right. So I guess there is no decision point there. I guess the only decision point would be as to whether or not we want to hold the public hearings here in council chambers under the new guidelines, or if we want to do them by Zoom, just to provide staff with clear direction. CAO.
Through you, Madam Chair, really the direction is, is council okay proceeding with our open houses the way that we've laid it out? I think it's people are going to expect to have to show proof of vaccination if they want to come to those, and the information will be available online. If people aren't vaccinated and don't want to come to an open house, the information will still be out there for them to get if they so choose. With the public hearings, that is a decision of council. Unless council tells us otherwise, we will proceed with having public hearings in this room with the overflow in 168 as we normally would, because we have now all of the technology in this room to proceed with those, and being able to still live stream them and make them more accessible to folks who may not want to come into a room with 100 people yet, which is understandable. Should council decide to move it to another location for the public hearings for a larger room, we don't have one for you. There's no halls that are offering rentals at this point. We've searched for a large enough space. And if you move from this room, you lose all the benefits of your live stream technology, which then limits the ability for folks to watch from home. And that is, from an accessibility point of view, not where I think council would want to go. So if you do nothing tonight, we will proceed with the public health regulations in effect with the open houses, and we will proceed with having the public hearings in this room as they unfold.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff, how many public hearings are scheduled to come up right now?
Through you, Madam Warden, we're potentially looking at 3 for October. Now, there's at least one of them which I don't think is going to generate a great deal of public interest. The Dr. Sheehy application in Shubenacadie, there hasn't been so far, so I don't expect there. But if the WM Fairs one moves forward, which we think it might in October, then that could generate quite a crowd.
Because and the reason I ask that is because if there's multiple public hearings on the same night, you can have multiple different communities and different groups coming together, and whether there's space available, and now you're having, the possibility of an incident that if you look, public health today said, you're trying to, even though the restrictions are being relaxed, you still want to keep things as much in your community as possible. If we have multiple hearings on the same night involving different communities, that could actually raise an issue. So, yeah, that's my concern, is that, you know, we do have limited capacity, and if we do have a few that are going to generate interest, we might not have enough room for everybody, and then now we're mixing communities that normally wouldn't mix, which can be a potential hazard. Thank you.
Counselor Rhino.
So the 3 open houses, just to confirm, are the ones for the planning sessions for the zoning?
Yes.
Yeah, well, they, in my mind, they have to remain within the communities. You can't bring them here and expect people.
No, there wouldn't be an intent to move those. Those would stay the way they
Those
are
would
now.
stay, so
People would
we'll-
just have to show proof of vaccination to attend.
All right.
Are there any further comments? So, Counselor Garden-Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So you're proposing that we have the hearings here just with the limited attendance, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Warden, there would be no limited attendance.
Okay,
They would be open to the public. There is no restrictions on gathering limits when we're in phase 5. We do need masks, though. Yeah. you
but
would
is
need
there
masks.
not a limit in this, like just
Well,
a general?
through fire code regulations,
Right.
but
Well,
no longer through.
There is a limit, but
Right.
when we have a public hearing here, we use 168, the room next door, the big room, as an overflow, so the screen they would see the same thing, and they can hear counselors and the public speaking. And then as people want to come to the microphone and present, if they're not in this room at the start of the meeting, then they would have an opportunity to come into this room, speak, and then go back into 168.
I see. And that's typically how you
Yes.
held the public hearings prior to COVID?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, counselors, you've heard the discussion. If we just receive this as information, we will proceed and have our public hearings as per usual, as the regulations now permit. If we wish to do anything different than that, we would need to make a motion to change them. And also, the intent would be for the open houses in the communities to go forward under what the regulations will be at that time, which will require any public attending will have to provide proof of double vaccination. And not to stir the pot, but on those meetings, those are not regular council meetings, business of council. I would expect that any of us who want to attend would be under the same regulation as the general public.
At the open houses?
Yes, yes. Just so everyone is aware, so. Is there any further discussion? So seeing none, staff will proceed with whatever public hearings come up, and I'm sure, you know, there, as much attempt as we can make on the timing of those, so that, to Councillor Perry's concerns, folks from one community might be going out before the next community group came in. But, anyway, thank you. Next, council is asked to select their delegation for the virtual Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities Fall Conference to be held November 3rd and 4th, 2021. Early bird deadline is October the 14th. This information has been available for a while, and because there are no travel or motel charges on a virtual conference, any counselor who is interested in attending is certainly able to do so. So, do we have any counselors who are excited to attend this virtual conference? I attended the virtual FCM, and I have attended a virtual, I'm not sure what it was, at NSFM now, spring thing. I will be honest with you, I don't feel that the virtual conferences provide anything like the actual conferences. However, NSFM is an important organization and does a lot for all the municipalities in Nova Scotia. And I do feel it's important to support them through the pandemic as we go. So for those reasons, I will be attending the virtual conference. And I believe the CAO is going to attend the virtual conference. So I would just ask that if any other member of council has some free time and would be interested in attending, that you let Cheryl Lee know prior to October the 14th. And do we need a motion? So I would be looking for a motion to approve that the CAO and myself attend, and perhaps we could have a caveat on that motion, and any other counselor who notifies Cheryl Lee prior to the 14th. If someone would be prepared, Councillor Perry.
I'll move that recommended motion. I'll move that the warden, the CAO attend the virtual NSFM, and if anybody or any other counselor wishes to attend, to contact Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. Oh, somebody has to vote. And it is passed unanimously. Next item, a letter to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board regarding the new 4-inch meter base rate. And Sue.
Thank you, Madam Warden. It's been brought to our attention by one of the developments that a 4-inch meter is now required, and we don't currently have a base rate for that. So we're asking tonight if council would approve us sending a letter to the Utility Review Board to have them approve a new base rate for a 4-inch and a 4-inch compound meter.
Someone prepared to move the motion? Deputy Warden Mitchell.
I'll move the motion as presented.
Seconded by Councillor Green. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Next on correspondence for decision is a request from the Mount Uniacke Volunteer Fire Department seeking funding towards the revitalization of their outdoor rink behind the fire hall. Also attached is a letter from the municipality confirming funding availability pending council approval. And who is taking this one? Or Councillor Perry, one of the two? Oh, okay, sorry, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'd like to move that council provide a grant to the Uniacke and District Volunteer Fire Departments in the amount of $37,375 to be funded from the Uniacke Recreation Area Rate, and that this funding be awarded upon the receipt of federal funding for the rink renewal project.
Seconded by Councillor Musa. Is there any discussion? Just, I was just going to clarify that this is from a dedicated area rate that's already been collected in Mount Uniacke from those residents. So question's been called. We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Next, we have a letter from Edward Canola regarding concerns around the CNR line in Enfield, which was dealt with at executive committee. And this recommendation is coming forward. And who is taking this one? Okay. So this will be coming forward in the committee report, so we won't be dealing with this at this time. And that ends the correspondence for decision. So we will move forward into committee reports. First being the Corporate and Residential Services Committee. Councillor Perry, Vice Chair. I'd ask him to present his report.
Thank you, Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on September 21st, 2021 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of the meeting. The Tinsmith and Walton Lighthouse leases. The Walton Lighthouse and the Watson Smith & Sons Tinsmith Museum are owned by East Hants and operated and maintained by two community groups through a formal lease agreement. These leases are due to expire. Staff are seeking direction to renew the leases. The Corporate and Residential Service Committee recommends to Council that Council direct staff to have discussions with both organizations on the financial need of the facilities, Tinsmith and Walton Lighthouse leases. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. Missing someone. Councillor Rhino is left in them. Okay, the motion is passed unanimously by those present.
Next one, Clarksville Community Hall. The former Clarksville School/Community Hall located at 10 Clarksville Road, Clarksville, is no longer being used, and the Clarksville Community Club is no longer registered with the Registry of Joint Stock Companies. Per the deed, the property will be transferred back to the municipality as the club is no longer active. As there is no current municipal need, it is recommended that the property be declared surplus for disposal. The Corporate and Residential Service Committee recommends that Council deem the former Clarksville School property, PID 45149283, surplus to municipal needs. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously by those present.
Furthermore, the Corporate and Residential Service Committee recommends to Council that Council instruct staff to discuss with the remaining trustee and member of the Clarksville Community Club and provide some preliminary information to the community that it would be the municipality's intent to dispose of the property once it is owned, and perhaps wait until October committee to determine at that time if this is the process that will be taken and for the decision on how to dispose of the property. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
The Corporate and Residential Service Committee recommends to Council that any costs incurred for the required mothball activities for the Clarksville Community Hall be funded through year-end surplus or professional services reserves up to the amount of $13,000. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. We're waiting for the vote.
There we go.
And the motion is passed unanimously.
Next, tax sales report. Staff presented a report in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, seeking approval to deter the tax sale process for 7 accounts that would normally have been taken to tax sale auction in 2021. In order to comply with Municipal Government Act Section 134(3), the Corporate and Residential Service recommends to Council that Council, in response to the COVID pandemic and to maintain compliance with the Municipal Governance Act Section 134(3), authorize the tax sale process for the below listed properties to be deferred until June 14th, 2022. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Tax Water Collection Council Policy. The staff present a report in regards to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and its impacts on the financial tax bill due date. Staff request approve of changes to the final tax bill due date from September 30th to October 1st in the tax and water collection policy. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends that Council give approval to the changes to the Tax and Water Collection Council policy as attached to the Executive Committee Addenda dated September 21st, 2021. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Second. Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Records Management Policy. The municipality has been actively managing official records since 2008. In recent years, the production of information has decreased. The liability associated with keeping information for too long has become more important. The organization is improving its record and information program to align with the current trends in this area and prepare an update to the destruction of documents policy to reflect these changes and rename the policy. The Corporate Residential Committee recommends that Council approve the Record and Information Management Policy to replace the current Destruction of Documents Policy as attached to the Executive Committee Agenda dated September 21st, 2021. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Mandated zoning in municipalities in Nova Scotia. Concerns were raised with the mandate of the former provincial government requiring land use planning in all areas of municipality. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that Council write a letter to the provincial government copying the Premier, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the 3 MLAs responsible for the part of East Hants, stating that the municipality was never in agreement with this mandate and that the municipality does not feel that adequate consultation was done, and given that all municipalities had the ability to zone where they deemed appropriate, requesting that this requirement towards mandatory zoning either be rescinded or at the very least a moratorium put on its implementation until such time that true, real consultation with rural municipalities can take place. It should also be copied to members of NFSM. As Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Rhino. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously.
As Vice Chair of the Committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion has passed. Next on our agenda will be the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee report. Councillor Rhino.
Committee held its regular meeting on September 21st, 2021 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of the meeting. Curling background report. The East Hants Curling Association made a presentation followed by a background report by the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. And from that, the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee recommends to council that they receive and file the report, East Hants Curling Association Summary of Council Decisions dated September 13th, 2021. As Chair of the Committee, I do so move.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Hebb. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Park naming policy. Staff proposed a new park naming policy in accordance with the Parks Open Space and Active Transportation Master Plan to provide consistency when naming new parks or renaming existing parks. So from that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommends to council that council approves the park naming policy as attached to the September 21st, 2021 Executive Committee agenda. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously.
Madam Warden, as chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried. Next, we go to the Planning Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Counselor Green.
Thank you, Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on September 21st, 2021 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of this meeting. Item 1, Scott Blois Discharge Development Agreement Report. The municipality received an application from SB Automotive Repairs Limited to discharge an existing development agreement to permit land located at 485 Highway 2 Infield to be regulated by provisions of the land use bylaw. The existing development agreement permits retail sales of building supplies, allows for a fitness center, and allows for an auto detailing business, none of which are currently operating on the property. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council approve the discharge agreement for lands located at 485 Highway 2 Infield to enable the subject property to be regulated by the provisions of the land use bylaw. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Item number 2, Salvage Yards Background Report for the Plan Update. As part of the ongoing plan review, staff presented a background paper to discuss and propose approaches to different land use issues. The first background paper dealt with salvage yards and proposed updates to the definition and how they may be regulated in the future planned area. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council acknowledge the receipt of the background report and that it will be parked until further discussion is held for future planned area. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Rhino. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Item number 3, Milford Groundwater Study, Plan Update Background Paper. As part of the ongoing plan review, staff presented a second background paper to provide a summary of the Milford Groundwater Study commissioned by the municipality to determine drinking water availability and supply in the growth management area of Milford. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council authorize staff to begin preparing land use policies and regulations for the growth management area of Milford to create an overlay zone based on the direction in staff's report dated September 14th, 2021, and authorize staff to organize an open house in Milford to discuss the proposed policies and regulations. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously.
Item 4, Private Roads Background Report for the Plan Update. As part of the ongoing plan review, staff presented a background paper to discuss private roads as directed by council at their October 14th, 2020 meeting. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council authorize staff to maintain the current private road regulations. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Item number 5, Infield train whistle complaint. In response to a complaint received from a resident of Infield, staff presented a report outlining the process to request CN to consider eliminating the train whistle. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council forward correspondence from Edward Canola to CN explaining it comes from a concerned resident, and while we are not following the process to end the whistleblowing, we are looking for more information on potential changes to the whistle pattern. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Warden Mitchell. Is there any further discussion? Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously.
Item 6, Shaw Brick Road naming. A new roundabout is currently under construction along Highway 2 in Lance, and Nova Scotia Public Works is taking over a portion of the driveway entrance to Shaw Brick Plant as part of the roundabout. The new provincial road parcel requires naming following road name procedures carried out by the Municipal Civic Addressing Coordinator. Based on a petition of adjacent property owners, the name Clay Brick Way was proposed for council's approval. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council approve the proposed provincial road name Clay Brick Way for the entrance of the Shaw Brick Plant off of Highway 2 Lance, and direct staff to request road name approval and implementation from the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Deputy Warden Mitchell. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden. All those in favor? Contrary? Motion is carried. Brings us to the Police Advisory Committee report. Back to you, Councillor Rhino.
Committee held its regular meeting on September 21st, 2021 in council chambers. There are no motions coming forward as a result of the meeting, but the committee received an update on efforts to fill a vacancy, and the RCMP presented their quarterly report. The chair advised he recently attended the Nova Scotia Police Governance Association virtual meeting. So that brings us to the end. So as chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Councillor Green. Is all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. Next is the Nominating Committee report, which will be a verbal report from myself. The Nominating Committee met earlier this evening to interview for the vacancy on the Police Advisory Committee. And as a result of that meeting, the vacancy that is on Police Advisory is for the corridor area. We try to have membership from different areas of the municipality. And so the Nominating Committee recommends that Crystal Randall be appointed to the Police Advisory Committee, subject to successfully passing the necessary background checks. I'm sorry, I have to hand the chair to the Deputy Warden while I do this. My apologies.
I'll second that.
Okay, you can run that too.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor of the motion?
We'll go to the vote.
We'll go to the vote.
Councillor Rhino, is wanting to speak?
Who? No? I don't know what happened. Council,
Look out.
And the motion has passed unanimously. Oh, sorry, that was your line.
That's
Deputy
okay.
Warden?
and the motion is passed unanimously. Wa-
Hand him
Hmm?
Are you handing the chair back?
I'll hand the chair back to the warden.
Okay, thank you. You had a question, Counselor Musa? Yes, it's not on the agenda tonight. We do have a number of committee vacancies because of Counselor McDonald's. We intend to fill those following the special election. Just a quick question for folks. The nominating committee is down a member. Council tasked me with appointing members to the nominating committee back when I was elected warden. I'd just like some direction as to whether you wish me to appoint someone to fill that vacancy or if council wishes to choose someone. Councilor Head.
Yes, Warden, I think where you appointed the rest of them at the beginning, I think it's only fair that you continue on that. Thank you.
Any further comments? Anyone from council disagree with that? It would be my intention to appoint someone from, as Councillor McDonald was from the corridor area, it would be my intention to nominate someone else from there. So I wondered if Councillor Garden Cole, would you consider being on the nominating committee?
I would accept that, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Musa. I had forgotten that. Okay. Next is the warden's report, which I don't have ready. So I'm going to move on to business from councilors first. We'll start with Councillor Rhino.
I had some inquiries from people with regard to the Bell Alliant project, and that was covered by staff. I appreciate the staff getting back to me, so that is it for right now.
That's all, Councillor Rhino?
That's it. Yeah.
Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I had the pleasure of passing out some long service awards to several volunteer firemen at the Enfield Fire Department several weeks ago. Actually passed out to 3 volunteer firemen, and the 4th one they were going to pass it out to him as he was absent. Probably not the celebration that it should be for from 30 to 50 years these men have volunteered, but maybe down the road when COVID is over, it can be celebrated properly. Also attended the opening ceremonies for the Under 15 Atlantic Fastball Championships the weekend before last, and a great ball all weekend. I attended numerous games, and it was a real testament to the host team and the volunteers who put it together. I heard lots of great things from the in the stands from the away teams, and yeah, East Hants was well represented, and also the boys played really well too. So that was a bonus. Also, it was a pleasure to be participating in the Burnt Coat event a couple of Sundays ago with some of the other staff from council. A lot of people went through there, spoke to a lot of people who weren't from the area, which was great. And yeah, and that's it from me. Thank you.
Councillor Eisner.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I too was with Councillor Garden Cole. It was interesting to see how they're doing their fire department. The groups were all broke up. They were all having very serious, more than what I've ever seen before there. It was nice to see it. I also had a follow-up phone call with one of the chiefs there, and talking about they want to do their expansion. They want to ramp up their fire hall. They want to purchase land, and they want to have a drive-through, something that they feel they really need because of the growth we have here, which was nice. I also dropped over to Salem, to the museum. I never thought I would go over there and go into a museum and see information from here. I said, what's all, you got all these different books in here? That was kind of neat to see that right up to Lance, and you just pull the books. You definitely have to go back and see some old history. It's really nice. Anyways, that was nice to do that. Anyways, thank you very much.
Counselor Hebb.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I also attended the Burn Code event, and very well received, and kudos to staff putting on such a great event, and very well organized. I attended the Milford Fire Department, their long service awards, and as Garden Cole says, that hopefully at a later date, because we had some 40-year participants there, and it's when you stop and think 40 years is a long time, so it was very well received, and very proud to be able to be there to help them with that. And I also was at the fastball opening at Infield, and watched a few games myself, and also very well organized. And I heard a substantial lot of feedback, and every bit of it was positive too, so which makes a big deal. Had a virtual meeting with the waste management in the northern region here, and not a whole lot of update. There's a new Minister of Environment now because of the government change, Tim Hellman, and the minister's mandate letter not to mention EPR. However, it was heavily on looking towards implementing new litter fines and enforcement for the municipalities here, for people who chuck out garbage and stuff on the side of the road, and it's become a major issue in Nova Scotia. So they're looking at coming up with new fines and how to enforce that. So other than that, thank you, Madam Warden.
Thank you. Counselor Knockwood.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I attended a ball tournament down in the village of Shubenacadie. Community team from Indian Brook did a lot of landscaping down there, so we had an annual Labor Day Pat Mar ball tournament. It was pretty successful. Teams from all over came from Nova Scotia, Cape Breton. It was a big, huge event, but it was good to see ball in Shubenacadie when they've been there for a long time. And we've been having talks at the river in Shubenacadie with a residential school about cultural teaching, and that was very successful. Well taken. A lot of community members from all over attended. So, it leads up to tomorrow. They're going to do a thing for the survivors down there at the old residential school tomorrow, probably around 2:00. But it's going to be, it could have virtual. I think you can go to public after 3:00 to go take a look at the new monuments and all that. And I've been attending and doing a lot of healing programs with the First Nations, non-nations, First Nations. We're gearing up for a long-term healing, and I got asked to be a part of it. I attended the Landon Walk in Awareness, and tomorrow we're going to be talking about the survivors of residential school. But I like to keep in mind that all kids matters. There was Indian Day School kids, which I was one, 60 Scoop in residential school, and we have people abusing kids all over the world. There's a few things in Nova Scotia too. If you got time tomorrow, think about the residential school survivors and all the kids around the world who were being traumatized in wars or anything like that. I just, it's bottom of my heart. I feel bad for all kids now. Like I always did, but it's just kind of deep when you're part of a government plot, I guess you can say. But I've been really, really busy. I work with kids and I do a lot of healing. And unfortunately, I'm stepping down on the Water Protection Committee because I've been asked to work with the healing programs, and that's taken a lot of my time and my extra job. So I'm stepping down on the water. Yeah. I really got no time in the day, and I need some time for myself to even to heal myself, to debrief myself, and when you talk to people who are in need of therapy and all that stuff. So unfortunately, I got to step down. Thank you very much.
Okay, and council, regarding that, I did explain to Councillor Knockwood that council has to agree to allow him to step down from that committee, that all members of council are appointed to one or more external committees. And that was the committee to which Councillor Knockwood was appointed. And I have explained that it is an attempt to equitably share the load. And I certainly understand that he's in a particularly busy time right now. But the committee work of council still needs to be done. So I guess I would have to ask council, I guess the intent would be to ask council if they support Councillor Knockwood leaving this committee. What is the view of council? Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm going to support Councillor Knockwood in his resignation for the simple reason is this is a very trying time, and it's very unique situation. I think this is something that as councillors our main focus is to do good within the community, and him stepping away from the Water Advisory Committee is actually allowing him to do more work within the community to help people. I just feel at this time that that's the right thing to do, not only for Councillor Knockwood, but I believe it will be a good gesture by this council to support these initiatives that are being undertaken. Thank you.
Any further comments? If none, I would be looking for a motion to accept Councillor Knockwood's resignation from the Source Water Committee, Protection Committee. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Warden. I would move that we accept Councillor Knockwood's resignation from the Water Committee. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Musa. And we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. So councillors, that brings us, okay, back to you, but we will have to have a quick discussion on this committee because we now have no council members on that committee. Councillor Knockwood?
Yeah, no, I just want to add on, the farm, Ralph Bauman wants to talk to council about a farm museum in Shubenacadie, partnership with the tinsmith. He wants to be put on the next agenda.
I
Yeah.
had spoken to Mr. Ballum earlier, and I think I indicated a process to ask to be put on the agenda, but perhaps CAO?
Through Madam Warden, there is a process to request to present in front of council.
Yeah,
So we can reach out to Mr. Ballum and have that process started, direct him to the website where the information is.
okay, thank you, that's it.
Okay, councillors, we are, I think, before we move on with Councillor McDonald having moved on and Councillor Knockwood's resignation, we are left with a non-functional committee. So I think as soon, and I think there's a meeting scheduled to come up fairly soon, Jesse, of that committee, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Warden, the next meeting's booked later this month, but we would plan to reschedule for post by election, giving the council a chance to designate 2 new members to the committee.
So at this time, I would just ask councillors to perhaps take some time and consider whether or not they would be interested in volunteering to sit on the Source Water Protection Committee. And then following the by-election, we will get that committee back up and running again. You would do that? Hey, thank you, folks. Deputy Warden Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I had the privilege of presenting his 65th wedding anniversary on August 18th to Earl and Sally Allen of Elmsdale. They were surprised to see me at the door a day early, but they were excited anyway for their certificate. I too attended the opening ceremony of the fastball in Infield. I enjoyed passing out hot dogs at the Burncoat Head Park festivities that Parks and Recreation had put together. It was a great day. We had a virtual meeting last evening for the Colchester East Hants Library Board. Just one of the keys that I told them I was going to pass on to council was that borrow by mail used to be a 10-kilometer radius. Now there is no radius at all, so you can borrow if you live next door, which helps out those and maybe can't get to the library, and also the ones that are farther out. On a personal note, I did a virtual meeting for Black families, and the goal was to discuss how the province can deal with some of the issues for Black families, and they're meeting with the Premier this week, a delegation is. So I'm waiting to see what that transpires into information that's passed on. And that's all. Thank you, Madam Warden.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
I too attended the events in Burncoat, was very well organized. Kudos to staff for that. And other than that, it's been fairly quiet in District 6, so that's all, Madam Chair.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I too attended the opening ceremonies for the baseball championships in Enfield, and I had the pleasure of talking to some of the teams from out of province, and to a player, a coach, and a parent, they were very impressed with how well the tournament was organized, how opening and accepting the community of East Hants has been to all the baseball players, their families, and they were very appreciative to be here for that event. Moving on, I want to also highlight, to echo the Deputy Warden, the libraries in East Hants throughout the pandemic have been doing wonderful work. If anybody needs to get their proof of vaccination printed off, the libraries are offering that you can go in there and they will help you print off your proof of vaccination and possibly laminate it for you, which is a great service for the community for those that have a hard time accessing that. There has been a couple things that come up within the community that kind of revolve around the business park. So this was brought to my attention by a resident with a complaint about the amount of dust that they're receiving on their property from a business across the Highway 1 in the business park. In talking to staff, I put it out to staff, and staff has contacted both parties based upon what the policy was. But I believe something, it lends us to a bigger issue. The speed limit to the entrance of our business park is 80 kilometers an hour. So that means any truck or big vehicle, and there's a concrete plant in there and many other ones, has to make a turn, a 90-degree turn onto a section of road that's 80 kilometers an hour. All the businesses that go along the number 1, you're having cars having to pull out from 0 to 80 immediately. And these are a grown-up area now. It's not like it used to be 20 or 30 years ago where there was sporadic houses, sporadic businesses. I think that we need to send a letter to TIR to ask them to review the speed going from along Highway 1 from the Exit 3 interchange by the Irving all the way down to the Uniacke Mines Road. I believe that now is the corridor of the community. It stretches that far. It's no longer just from the school to Uniac House. There's a large number of accidents have occurred there this year with loss of life along that same stretch. And I just would hate to see any more accidents or loss of life happen based on that. And I believe that the dust complaint and the dust issue also is probably partly caused by this, because those cars have to speed out of that parking lot to get up to speed. And the road winds, there's some blind corners, there's other businesses there that, you want to make sure that people are safe entering and leaving local businesses. Our business park, I mean, some of those trucks, when they turn out, they can't turn out if they're turning right to go to the highway. They have to cross the center line and go into the other lane to make that turn to get out with some of those big trailers loaded with things. So I just like to see if it's a little bit slower through there, it could actually help save a life, save an accident, or something along those lines, to make sure nobody gets hurt. But speed on the number one is something that I'll leave it. I guess that would go to you, Jesse, if that could be done.
Through Madam Warden, from a staff perspective, it would be ideal if that was through a motion of council.
Motion of council?
To draft or to write a letter to Nova Scotia Public Works with a specific request for review of speed limits between exit 3 and Old Mines Road, citing previous letters of accidents that we have sent, and the ongoing concern of vehicle safety, specifically with regards to fast-moving large vehicles, would be a recommended motion.
I would make that motion that, staff prepare a letter to Public Works to look at exit 3 all the way down to the Uniac Mines Road for speed with regard to the concern of vehicles, speed, and the intersections that connect with Highway 1.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Knockwood. Discussion, Councillor Musa?
Thank you, Warden. Yeah, to add to Councillor Perry, yesterday actually a tractor trailer went in the ditch. I'm not sure why, but it was coming out of Ether Road. And there's no way he go in a ditch without anything happening, probably to avoid an accident or something. It was a big tractor trailer and the road was blocked for like a few hours too.
Any further discussion? Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you, Council. Continuing on, I'd like to just say thank you to the Tim Hortons of Mount Uniac. They did their annual Smile Cookie campaign, and it was another resounding success, which will go to benefit local charities. And I believe in everybody's community that they did that. It's going to be well received, especially during the pandemic. Some of these charitable organizations, as we all know, through motions of council, have been hard hit financially. And the last thing I have to report to council is myself and Councillor Musa were hosted by Brad Johns, the MLA for Sackville-Uniac and the current Justice Minister, for a little meet and greet. And through our conversations, he is very eager and willing to get to know council and work with us in the future, which is good to hear. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yeah, I want to continue about the business park too, like that. I received that complaint from Mr. Nicole. He lives across street from Withrow, and I went to check his property. It was full of dust, and he's like over 80 years old trying. He always kept his property top notch, and we can't take it away from him, and we got to do something about that parking lot. He told me he have a paper that when the business park was introduced, that parking lot should be paved. I don't know, I didn't see it, but I would like probably a motion that staff work with Mr. Nicole, see what kind of paper he have, and see to resolve this situation, because an old man that in that age shouldn't be putting up with all the garbage and all the dust coming up from a business. I'm not taking it on a business, but something should be done. So I don't know if staff can resolve that matter or.
So your motion is for staff to investigate
Yes.
what possible agreement may have been in place and what could be done? Okay, do we have a seconder? Kate, okay.
Through you, Madam Warden, the matter was brought to our staff's attention. He has had some discussions with the business owner. This is a matter that has been ongoing, tends to develop over the course of the summer months as the driveways or the parking lot dries out. So as I understand it, the business owner was going to put some chloride down on the drive or on the parking lot at this point in the season, hoping to be able to minimize some of the impact at this stage. But we will, I think it's important for us to probably find out if there are any, I guess, legal obligations that they would have to fulfill. I'm not sure. We haven't checked those kinds of conditions.
He mentioned to me he has
So-
like probably brochure from the municipality that within the approval, like when they first approved the business park,
Yeah,
that the parking lot should, I didn't see it, but if staff could look at it, I don't know.
we will try and take a look at what exists. And then I think certainly we can continue to work with the business owner and certainly earlier in the season to make sure his calcium chloride is being applied on a regular basis throughout the course of the season and making sure that dust control is there. So we'll have staff look at it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Counselor, there is a motion on the floor with no seconder, but staff has indicated they're going to look at, so just for the record, Counselor Perry has seconded. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion has passed unanimously. Anything further, Counselor Musa? Oh, sorry.
At committee, we had a discussion about the private road and a municipal road, and I think in the near future, like in the next year, we're gonna be having a lot of municipal road handed over to the municipality in Mount Uniacke area. So I don't know about the other part, but I know in Mount Uniacke, there are a few of them coming up. So I would like to move that a staff report be developed on option for municipal road ownership efficiency.
Seconded by Counselor Perry. I think our staff are indicating they didn't hear the motion. Counselor, could you repeat that?
Okay, I move that a staff report be developed on options for municipal road ownership efficiency.
Okay. Is that clear, gals? A staff report be developed on municipal road ownership efficiency. And it was seconded by Counselor Perry. Any discussion on the motion? Counselor Rhino.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that I understand the motion before I go to vote on it. Have we had don't we deal with requests to take over a road when we have a request from a developer or something like that along those lines and deal with it at that time instead of trying to bring a report on possible roads that may be coming up? I just like some clarification on the correct process of how we should be following this. If I understand the motion.
The CAO is going to speak to that.
Through you, Madam Warden, just for clarification, based on the committee discussion at committee from Councillor Musa, The intent of the report is to look at how we maintain municipal roads in Mount Uniac through, currently we have the service exchange with the province, so building on that. As we take over more roads in Mount Uniac that are built to municipal standards of roads, what are the options to maintain those in the most efficient way? That was my understanding from your discussion at committee.
Does that clarify it, Councillor Rhino?
Somewhat.
Councillor Hebb?
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm still puzzled. I mean, staff, I believe, have guidelines to go by in how we maintain these roads. I'm just not sure whether we want to change those guidelines or just what is it? I can't figure it out.
I believe it's simply to determine the most efficient way to look after the roads that we take ownership with. And CAO?
Through you, Madam Warden, to me, it's a report back to council on what we do now and what other options might be out there to investigate if council wants to change the way we do things now. So currently, we meet with TIR at the beginning of any snow clearing season and discuss the efficiencies that we can both gain through exchange of municipal roads for provincial roads in different sections of the municipality. I think the taxpayers benefit from that process because we're not, in the olden days we had, not the olden days, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, we would have plows go down half a street, lift their plow and keep going because it wasn't a provincial road anymore. So we've come well past that. There is service level differences between the two levels of service, which people struggle with, but as far as efficiency, that is what we've settled on as our standards now. This report would be a summarization of that, and then anything through discussion with TIR, if there's other options available to council, we would bring those forward, but it wouldn't be a recommendation to change the way we do things now. It would be more for information of councillors on what the possible options are for servicing the
So it's
road.
basically the road exchange is what it is.
That's my understanding.
Yes, I wasn't aware of that. I just thought we were doing our own road, so, yeah, no, the exchange, I understand it now. Thank you.
Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yeah, and part of this is being brought up because as we enter more development agreements in the rural areas and the roads are turned over to the municipality, there's going to be an even larger amount of road exchange happening out in the rural area. And I can tell you right now, for my residents, and I receive all the calls, the level of service that they're currently receiving is subpar. They are not happy going 4 days without their road being cleared after a snowstorm. And it happens on multiple roads. And when it does get cleared, some of these roads, it's just a grader going down. There's no grit, there's no nothing being put on them. And they are just to their eyeballs fed up because if they come anywhere else and they see clean roads on a municipal road somewhere else, they're not happy. And that's the heat we're getting in our districts. Thank you.
Councillor Musa, back to you.
Yeah, I think one thing like the cottage country assessment is one of the highest in the municipality, probably after Grand Lake, and we gotta keep those people coming there to build our assessment up. So we cannot leave them 4 days without plow. So it's not only about the money, it's about the time too. So if we can come to a medium with them about time and money, it's okay. But if it's only money and wait 4 days, it's gonna be a nightmare for us to deal with all those people. Thank you.
So the motion on the floor is for staff to prepare a report. Is there any more discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Musa?
No, thank you. That's it.
Then I would ask the Deputy Warden to take the chair, and I will now do my Warden's report.
We'll have the warden's report, since it's a long one.
It's not that long. I just, I had my dates, I just didn't have them organized.
Someone get the blame.
Like other counselors, I did attend several events this month. I attended the event at Burncoat on the 12th, and like other counselors, found it to be very well organized and very, very well received by the public who were there. And it was, even with the COVID protocols, it was a good time, I think, and really enjoyed it. On the 14th, I attended the DAR meeting in Kennecott with the property owners who own property along the DAR line, and I think that was a good meeting with a good exchange of information had. On the 17th, I attended the opening of the ball tournament in Enfield along with other counselors, and wholeheartedly agree with the comments that have been made about how well organized it was and the good sportsmanship that seemed to be apparent to all. And on the 27th, I attended a document signing at the Sportsplex to commemorate the transfer of ownership of the Sportsplex to the municipality. And certainly, I believe the board members who were there were very grateful for the municipalities taking over the facility, and seemed to be looking forward to being able to concentrate on running the facility going forward. And Councillor Mitchell and Councillor Hebb were there as well, and trying to remember. And anyway, it was certainly an enjoyable occasion. Along with that, I of course attend the regular directors' meetings still via Zoom, and I just would like council to know that these folks never stop. Every Monday morning we have these directors' meetings, and I'm thinking, what could possibly have happened in a week to take up 3 hours of the morning? And I'll tell you, a lot goes on here, and it's just kudos. We're very fortunate to have these folks in the positions they have. Just before I finish, and we're going to turn it over to Kate for a few minutes, and then we do have an in-camera session following that before we adjourn. But before I turn it over to Kate, maybe repeating what I said earlier today, but on behalf of council, I just want to extend our heartfelt thanks to Kate for her time with us and all of her hard work and dedication. As I said earlier, we are extremely fortunate that you chose us to finish your career with. Not that we're happy you're finishing it, but we're very happy that you chose to come here. And we have reaped the benefits of your hard work and your experience, and the larger community will continue to enjoy the benefits of your work for many, many years to come. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say you will be missed, and thank you so much. So that concludes
Any questions from councilors to the warden? Thank you, Madam Warden. Give the chair back to you.
Thank you. So I will turn the floor over to Kate.
Thank you, Madam Warden. It's not often that you get to leave a position, and in my case, to retire, and have the opportunity to share your thoughts with council and certainly my colleagues. I have to say that I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to come and work in such a fine community. It's the kinds of things that are happening here in East Hants right now, and know that they are being treated in a thoughtful way, in a very respectful way from your staff group and from yourselves, is very heartwarming, because I think it's very important for us in municipal government that when we are so close to what happens in our local communities, you know you're making a huge impact with every decision that you make, with every action that your staff are taking out there. And I have to say that having worked in both large and now a small community across the country, by far this community needs to say you are being well managed and being well cared for is sort of the words that come to mind. I have worked in great communities and with great council, but you folks are amazing. And to be able to have a good working relationship, a very respectful working relationship, and the trust that is given from you to your staff group is remarkable. We work very hard. We do. We work very hard on your behalf. We work very hard on behalf of the community. And to have been blessed and to be honored to be part of that group for the last 7 years has been heartfelt on my part. I'm going to cry now. It's a great way to finish 40 years. I've spent 40 years in municipal government, most of it in municipal parks and recreation. And to have the honor to have such an impact in this community, to help give residents alternatives to look forward to, is why I do what I do. And so I leave knowing that I've done a great job. I feel very happy about the kinds of things that I've been able to achieve with all of the staff group here, and especially my colleagues. And with your support over the years, it's been a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. I remember in November of 2014 sitting with council and saying, I've been here a couple of months and these are the kinds of things that I'm learning about your community and what I think we can do to achieve a greater sense of parks and recreation here. And I outlined a possible need for a replacement for the Milford pool, a greater need for the kinds of things that we need to do with parks and trails and investments in open space in the community. I talked about active transportation and being able to connect communities without having to drive a vehicle. And so we've done a lot of work. I look back this week about the kinds of things we've been able to achieve, and there's still lots more to do. So you're in very good hands with your staff group. And I think I leave knowing that East Hants is going to grow and be a very robust community now and into the future. So thank you for the opportunity to work with you. I thank the community for allowing me to provide some input and guidance and be able to create a difference. So I leave feeling very happy, and that's what makes it all worthwhile. Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kate. Your words are much appreciated, and as I said earlier, your time here has been very well appreciated. And I'm sure everyone has your number on speed dial. Councilor Rhino.
I'd just like to say that I remember when Kate did come here, and coming from a bigger municipality and a bigger province, I thought, oh my. I wonder what, those big ideas and things were going to come out and be be more forefront than what we have around here, but that was not the case. Kate learned this area very well, and she learned how it was made up. She learned of the people. She learned of the staff. She learned, of the history. She didn't push ideas from a big city. She incorporated them in a small way that benefit us so greatly out there. And for me, it was a pleasure working with you. I'd like to move a motion to rescind your retirement, but I don't think that would be in order. But I wish you well, and I can only hope your replacement is as good as you are. Thank you.
Let's Adam. I do think we will be in good hands with Adam as he moves into the position, and
Pressure's on you.
does anyone else have any comments? Councillor Garden-Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Kate, I haven't been here very long, but I just get the impression that the parks and recs that we have today in the municipality and going forward is your legacy to East Hants. So well done.
Anyone else? Oh, you're down here. Deputy, you want to speak?
As one valley person to another, I wish you well in life. Enjoy the wine and the camaraderie of the valley. It's a great place to be. When I cut through on the way to Bridgetown, if I know your location, I will make the point to stop in for a little tete-a-tete. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one else asking to speak, and I'm sure we could stay here all evening and repeat the good wishes and the appreciation that we feel. So the next item on our agenda is an in-camera session for the CAO's biannual priority session. So I would be asking for a motion to go in camera. Oh, Mike, did you have? Okay. Moved by Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by the Deputy Warden that we go in camera for the CAO priority session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. We will give staff a few minutes to Okay, folks, I'll call us back to order. I would just report that we met in camera to discuss the CAO priorities. There are no motions coming forward from those discussions, so I would be looking for a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I think we have to set the date
You
and
set the
time.
date and time.
My apologies. So is someone prepared to move the date and time of the next council meetings, October the 19th, 2021 regular meeting of council, and October 27th, 2021 regular meeting of council?
Seconded.
Moved by Councilor Rhino, seconded by Councilor Green. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion is carried. Now I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Moved by Councilor Rhino, seconded by Councilor Green. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. We are adjourned, and we'll give the ladies time to turn off the system.